Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Society. We are grateful to gather on this beautiful morning, both in person and online, for a time of inspiration, reflection, and connection. Whether you join us today with joy in your heart, weighted with burdens, or searching for meaningful connections, we are glad you are here. I'm Bren Lindley, Worship Associate. My pronouns are she, they. I'm a pretty short white woman in my mid-50s with long brown and gray hair, glasses. I'm wearing a red shirt, gray pants, and a blue bow tie. I'm standing in the UUS's pulpit in front of our sanctuary. Our sanctuary is filled with people of all ages. Through the window walls of our sanctuary, we connect to the outdoors, where it is sunny and beautiful. I am delighted to welcome Reverend Kelli Clement as our guest preacher. The Reverend Kelli Clement comes to Unitarian Universalism from an evangelical upbringing in Texas by way of the theater, work in nonprofits, and a lifelong quest for meaning-making. Now she serves as both the St. Croix Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Wisconsin and the First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis. She led the efforts of First Unitarian as a plaintiff in the lawsuit Doe v. Minnesota, which successfully overturned abortion restrictions in Minnesota law. Combining an art and spirituality practice, Kelli is a fellow of the Jewish Studio Project and is currently working on her doctorate in social transformation. She lives in Minneapolis with her husband, Mike, daughter, Sophia, and a mini poodle named Memphis. As we gather, we give thanks for this land and all who have cared for it over the centuries, particularly the Kickapoo, the Iowa, the Sauk, and the Meskwaki nations. As people of many ages, genders, races, sexual orientations, classes, abilities, and health statuses, we know how important it is to come together as a radically welcoming spiritual community. As Unitarian Universalists, our faith expresses our core value of love through how we agree to be together and to support each other. We are guided by the shared principles, sources, and values of our living religious tradition. This morning, as we explore the relationship between spirituality and justice, we will celebrate deep peace as a wellspring for action. If you're newer to our congregation, we invite you to learn more about us after the service. For those here in person, you can talk to the greeter in the atrium. For those online, there's a link to a visitor form in the YouTube notes that will let us connect with you.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Kelli Clement. My pronouns are she, her. I'm slightly taller than Bren, older white woman with gray hair wearing a black robe and a blue stole. Welcome to this holy and sacred moment. This combination of people on this particular day in this particular space will never be the same again. We have created something unique by our gathering here. Let us know and be present to the beauty that we create together as community. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning. So glad to see you all. We will be singing Building a New Way, which is hymn 1017 in the Teal hymnal. Please rise as you're able.
Feel
Ren, everybody.
As Unitarian Universalists, we light a flame within a chalice as a symbol of sanctuary and safety to unite us in our worship and to remind us of our ongoing search for the light of truth. Please join me in saying our chalice lighting words as Lena lights our chalice. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the wonder and mystery of this great gift. So let us now kindle the flame of our liberal religious heritage and renew our covenant of mutual love and care. Love is our doctrine, the quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to serve those in need. This we promise, this we covenant with life and one another. Each week we light a candle for justice and healing to acknowledge our interdependence with the natural world and with all members of the global community, especially the most vulnerable. We light this candle so that we may not be numbed to injustice and trauma, but rather find strength, courage, and love as we work in solidarity with others for liberation, justice, and healing. Together, we create resilience and hope. Today, as we light this candle, we're particularly mindful of the death of Nex Benedict, a non-binary 16-year-old member of the Choctaw Nation.
Well, it's time for a story for all ages. And I had an opportunity to either read a story or make one up out of my head. And given that opportunity, I'll always make one up out of my head. So today the story is about a young raccoon. Her name was Raquella. Some of you may remember stories about her great-grandfather, Rocky. Raquella was in the first grade, and she had made a few friends by this point in the first grade, and they all seemed to know who they were and what they were good at and how to do it, and she just didn't. She had a friend named Beatrice the beaver. Beatrice was a pretty good swimmer. She had learned to swim when she was little, and so Beatrice invited Raquella to go swimming with her. And so she went, and she was okay at it. She just didn't like it very much. She didn't like the water on her fur, and she didn't like it. She liked Beatrice okay. Well, she also had a friend named Caruth the crow. And Caruth was funny and told jokes and could pick up shiny things with his beak, with their beak. I'm sorry, Caruth had they, them pronouns. Could pick up things with their beak. And so they taught Raquella how to do this. And, well, she liked Caruth okay, but she did not like picking up things with her beak, her mouth off the ground. And she had a friend named Gordon the gecko. And Gordon could climb. Gordon was a really good climber and could climb trees and could climb straight up walls. He had these kind of sucker things on his feet. And Gordon invited Raquella to come climbing with him. Well, she liked it okay. She had kind of sharp claws. She was okay at climbing, but she didn't love it. And everybody knew who they were, and she just didn't. And it made her kind of anxious. And she started saying, how do I know who I am? How do I know who I am? How do I know? How do I know? How do I know who I am? And all of a sudden, she got still, she got quiet, and she heard something that said, listen. Sounded like a song. Listen, Listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. Well, that was different. So she got still and quiet, and she thought, I know who I am. I'm a raccoon, and I like to dig. That's what I do, is dig. Well, the children got a little older, and by this time they were in middle school. And boy, Beatrice had gone off, and she was doing swimming contests, and she was in those lanes going back and forth. Raquel would go and see her sometimes. And Caruth was entertaining the school at talent night. You remember talent night. Oh, Caruth could keep an audience engaged, and Raquel liked to watch them. And Gordon Gecko just kept climbing. And he'd look down, say, hello, Raquel, you want to come up? No, I'm all good. See ya. And she wondered what she was supposed to do. How do I know what to do? How do I know what to do? How do I know? How do I know? How do I know what to do? And then she heard that voice again. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. And then she knew what to do. She wanted to build a garden. She wanted to dig out the weeds and dig out the grubs and find all the trash and build a garden. But she didn't know how to do it. And who would help her? How will I get what I want? How will I get what I want? How will I get what I want? And she heard it again. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. I will never forget you. I will never forsake you. And then she knew she would ask her friends to help her build a garden. And she got Beatrice out of the pool, and she got Caruth to come and bring some shiny things. She called, Gordon Gecko, will you come down and help? Sure, I'll be right there. And they all came and they helped Raquel to build the garden because they all listened to what was important inside them. So as you go to your religious education classes, and as you go about your week this week, I want you to think about how you can listen to the quiet song inside yourself and see what it's calling you to do.
Good morning. I need all of my friends who are interested in going to our religious education classes, all children, youth, teachers, to come forward, and Ari is going to light our lantern while Emily leads us in song.
Take with you the flame from our chalice. Take with you the light and the hope. Take with you the blessings and love. Explore our faith and grow. Take this flame as you go. Take with you the flame from our chalice. Take with you the light and the hope. as you go.
It is such a great pleasure for me to be with you here in this space. The last time I was on this property, it was just a gleam in your eye. My dear, dear friend and colleague, the Reverend Stephen Protzman of blessed memory, brought me out here to see this land before the building was built. Stephen and I met each other on the very first day that we were in seminary. And I carry him with me, and he is especially with me this morning. I share your grief at his untimely loss. And I want to say a word, too, of prayer and hope and support for all the trans and non-binary and gender-conforming youth and adults who are traumatized by the news of the death of Nex Benedict, this beautiful 16-year-old trans kid in Oklahoma. For all the children and teens who are suffering, and for those who help them, we have work to do. All of us. It feels overwhelming, and yet we do it together. Bring your whole self here today, your broken heart, your joyful heart, your loving heart, your frustrated and sad and angry heart. Bring it here. All of us together make it holy. Please.
Hello. Today's sermon revolves around one of the writings of the Reverend Howard Thurman, and it talks about there being an island of peace within our souls, and this is where we connect to our source. This is where we find our truth. This is where we find our peace, and Reverend Kelli will talk more about that. But for this moment, I would like us to sing a short meditation. It's not that short. A meditation that grounds us and allows us space to find the island of peace within our souls. It's very simple. There's an island of peace within my soul. And then there's one different word down there, which is on this island of peace I am at home. So we'll go ahead and play that for you now, and please join in when you would like to. You may sit, be comfortable.
There's an island of peace.
How we give, what we do with our lives, our time, and our resources is a reflection of our values. In response to the abundance we are blessed with, every week this congregation donates generously to organizations in the community whose work aligns with our values and principles. Our community partner agency this month is United Action for Youth. United Action for Youth nurtures the potential of all youth to create, grow, and lead. Services include family meditation and therapy, a youth center with recording studio, art gallery, performance space, counseling, and the Rotary Center for Youth Volunteers, a family support program for pregnant and parenting teens, and a transitional living program for homeless youth ages 16 to 22. In the sanctuary, the ushers will collect the offering, or you can follow the instructions on the screen for how to give online. All cash contributions go directly to our community partner agency. In addition to assisting our community partner, you may contribute towards your pledge to our society or contribute to the congregation by providing an additional support for our operating expenses. You may also contribute by check, using the memo line to designate the purpose. The offering is a sign of commitment to this free congregation, which is completely supported by the generosity of all who join us. As we give and receive the offering, may we be transformed by our giving, and may the world be transformed by our gifts.
UUS Strings, you are a treat. Thank you so much for your beautiful music today. We have two readings today. One is by Adrienne Marie Brown from her wonderful book, Emergent Strategy. She writes, over and over again, it becomes known, the peace we seek is seeking us. The joy, a full bud, awaiting our attention, justice in our hands, longing to be practiced. The whole world learning from within this trilling moat in the universe, laboratory, labyrinth, internal demands. You are the one you are waiting for. Externalize love. Bind us together into a greater self, a complex movement, a generative abundance, an embodied evolution, learning to be here. Critique is a seductress. Her door is always open. So what if you get some? We are going further, past reform to wonder. This requires comprehension that cannot fit into words, out beyond our children, beyond the end of time. There's a ceaseless cycle, a fractal of sublime, and we come to create it, to soil our hands and our faces, loving, loving, loving ourselves and all our places. I'm going to hand you this. It's a little bit. And this reading that Emily alluded to from Howard Thurman. There is in every person an inward sea, and in that sea there is an island, and on that island there is an altar, and standing guard before that altar is the angel with the flaming sword. Nothing can get by that angel to be placed upon that altar unless it has the mark of your inner authority. Nothing passes the angel with the flaming sword to be placed upon your altar unless it be a part of the fluid area of your consent. This is your crucial link with the eternal. I wanted to put the words up here because it's a rich and dense reading, and I wanted you to be able to see it as I talk about it today. Could you hear it? Could you hear in the reading this call to your own inner wisdom, to authenticity, to courage, to your own heart song? When I first encountered this quote by Howard Thurman last fall, it grabbed a hold of me and will not let me go. The angel with the flaming sword guarding that altar, my altar. I continue to tease this out and unpack it. So I want to do that a little bit today. But before I do, I want to give some biographical information about Howard Thurman, in case you do not know a lot about him. I did not. And then spend some time with this quote and touch this idea of spirituality and justice not being mutually exclusive. I think they belong together. I'm not the first person to say that, and I'm going to say it today. Howard Thurman was a pastor, a scholar, a teacher, a university chaplain, a preacher, and administrator for over 55 years. Born just 44 days before the turn of the 20th century in November of 1899, he was born in segregated Daytona Beach, Florida, in the Jim Crow South. Education was the way out. Howard Thurman and his family knew, and he persevered through one challenging obstacle after another. He attended Morehouse College in Atlanta and Rochester Theological Seminary in New York. Thurman scholar Walter Fluker writes that Thurman conducted his speaking engagements amidst Rochester's harsh and hostile racial climate that was further agitated by the presence of the Ku Klux Klan, whose members would regularly attend his speeches. Now, we expect one kind of thing, perhaps, from the South in those days. This was in the North, in Rochester. Up here in the North, we know it's not one place. Then and now, frankly, no place is safe from racial and other kinds of oppressive hatred. Thurman studied with Quaker, mystic, and pacifist leader Rufus Jones. This was the start of his mysticism and pacifism that became guiding philosophies in his life. Thurman was ordained and began to teach and pastor in Ohio and Georgia and became the dean of Rankin Chapel at Howard University. In 1935, he led a pilgrimage of friendship to India to meet and study with Mahatma Gandhi and vowed to live his life by Gandhi's nonviolent teachings. In 1944, Thurman co-founded and became the pastor to the first intentionally multiracial congregation in the United States, the Church for the Fellowship of All People in San Francisco. The membership grew to about 250 people. About half of them were white, and about half were Black, Chinese, Japanese, and Filipino. Time magazine named him one of the 12 great preachers in the country. I'm just thinking, who would they call the 12 great preachers today in the country? In 1959, he left the Fellowship Church to become the first African-American professor and dean of Marsh Chapel at Boston University, a position he held until he retired in 1965. You know Krista Tippett and her podcast and radio program On Being. Seeing some of you nod, you know Krista Tippett. Recently, she had an interview with the Reverend Otis Moss III, who is currently the pastor of Trinity United Church in Chicago. You may remember Trinity United Church as the place that the Obamas were members, and the great preacher Jeremiah Wright was the pastor there. Tippett and Moss were discussing the documentary Backs Against the Wall, the Howard Thurman story. You can find it on YouTube, Backs Against the Wall, the Howard Thurman story. Tippett said to Moss, "You called him a mystic, and it feels to me in some ways he was so ahead of his time. Watching the film, I noted down all the different ways people described what Thurman was, what his role was in the movement. He was pastor to the leaders, moral anchor to the movement, with an established philosophical framework, a teacher, a spiritual activist, a mystic, had a contemplative spirituality. He talked to trees long before the New Age movement came around. This is where he was very much ahead of his time, a saint for the civil rights movement. You say," she said to Moss, "you say you think it would be surprising to people who have just a basic understanding of the civil rights movement to know that it had a mystic who was the pastor to the leaders and the teachers and activists." The Reverend Moss replied, "It's fascinating that so many people were part of the movement that have these unique Howard Thurman stories about his big laugh and about how he always made time for people. Of course, Dr. King had strong connections with Howard Thurman, and SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, were very closely connected to him. And Thurman was always pushing these activists toward an inner journey on who they were and their encounter to find, in his words, the sound of the genuine. He said, discover what makes you come alive and have this encounter with the Spirit, an encounter with silence, the encounter with God, and that God is a God of justice." It was said that Dr. King carried 3 books with him at all times: the Bible, the U.S. Constitution, and Howard Thurman's work, Jesus and the Disinherited. Thurman was known in the movement as Dr. King's soft place to land, the pastor to the prophet. He encouraged King and all of the activists in the civil rights movement to go inward with these essential questions: who am I? What do I want? And how do I propose to get there? Now, it's not unheard of in our Unitarian Universalist movement, where so many of us are come-outers from a religious past that no longer fits us, to hear us denigrating Christians or expressing an antipathy to religion. I've done it myself. It's helpful for me to remember that Thurman and King led the civil rights movement out of a Christian experience, out of their relationship with a God of justice. If we attempt to divorce their work for their driving theology for justice, we leave out what was to them most essential. Episcopal priest and Black woman Stephanie Spellers refers to her Jesus-shaped life. Now, this theology no longer resonates with me. And I wonder how we Unitarian Universalists would describe the shape of our lives. Is it a love-shaped life? Are we shaped by justice, integrity, responsibility, imagination, creativity, service, a love of nature and animals? If we live a chalice shaped life. What does that mean? Around what is the core of your life shaped? And how does this faith movement that we are a part of help us define that shape? And what about that angel with the flaming sword? Oof, she's a strong religious symbol to be reckoned with. I want to read the quote again. I just can't get these images out of my head. There is in every person an inward sea. And in that sea there is an island, and on that island there is an altar, and standing guard before that altar is the angel with the flaming sword. Nothing can get by that angel to be placed upon that altar unless it has the mark of your inner authority. I just feel my shoulders roll back and stand up taller. Nothing passes the angel with the flaming sword to be placed upon your altar unless it be a part of the fluid area of your consent. This is your crucial link with the eternal. Here, Thurman is inviting us to be still in the midst of so much need. Ugh, don't you feel like everything needs to be done right now? Isn't it all urgent? It's all burning. I feel paralyzed sometimes by the need of the world, the overwhelming need of the world. But Thurman is inviting us to be still, to go deep, and to listen to our inner voice, to perceive that authenticity so we can get past all the noise and get to stillness and authority here. To perceive the outlines of that shape, to return again and again to center, to come face to face with our own integrity, our own worth and dignity, our consent to be present in the world as we are called in an upright and effective and honest way. It's worth remembering that as a black leader, Thurman's words had a special effect on black members of the civil rights movement who may have experienced internalized racism and bias. In Jesus and the Disinherited, he asks, what does it mean to grow up with a cheap self-estimate? What does it mean to grow up with a cheap self-estimate? How does that shape us? Such are the long and lingering effects of white supremacy culture, where both people with internalized racism and the shame that many people with skin like mine feel when confronted with such evils done in our name. Such are the long and lingering effects that we need to be called back to our inner authority, to let go of shame and blame and bias, to know that we are loved and beloved, that we belong, so that we can step forward in the work that needs to be done. This fluid area means that what is acceptable to us changes. It has changed over the course of your lifetime and mine. As Maya Angelou taught us, when we know better, we do better. What will I stand for and with and against? Who will be present with me? What's okay with me and what is not? That changes and grows over the course of our lifetime. So we center in spirituality and then we go forth to do the work of justice. I call spirituality that place of center that I can return back to again and again. I heard a minister one time say that for many people, their most important spiritual practice is parenting young children. And that was a game changer for me when our daughter was little. It let me come back again and again to my center, no matter where she was spinning off. That may be familiar to some of you. Back to center so that I could know what was the next right thing. It's a lifelong process, this justice and spirituality work, and it is worthy of our attention. It is worthy of our gathering together, coming here together to find out how you do it, and you do it, and you do it, and you do it. How do I know who I am? How do I know what I want? And how do I know how to get there? Listen. Listen to your heart song, and let us share that song together. Blessed be, and amen.
May what has been shared today help us more fully affirm our interconnection and live into love and justice. Immediately after the service, we gather in the fellowship hall for conversation and community. During this time, we'll be saying goodbye to our congregational administrator, Emma Barnum, who's leaving us for a position with the United Way. And now to close our service today, the UUS Strings and Emily and Shin Wei will lead us in Circle Round for Freedom.
Please stand as you are able to sing hymn 155.
Please join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again.
As we go forth into the week, each of us with our duties and tasks and lists, let us find moments of stillness and quiet to know where we are being called next. Over and over again, it becomes known the peace we seek is seeking us. We come to create it, this wonder and joy and justice, to soil our hands and faces, loving and loving ourselves and all our places. Go in peace to love and serve the world.